When it comes to recording vocals or speech for your YouTube videos or your podcasts or your own tracks, one of the biggest issues you can run into is background noise. And depending on what your recording environment is and what the equipment is that you're using to record the audio, things like the sound of your PC fans, the sound of your doorbell ringing, planes flying over, traffic passing by can all get picked up by the microphones and work their way into the recording. And then when you go to apply normalization or compression and limiting in post for when you're mixing, these things get brought out even more and they can rear their ugly head and ruin a decent recording. So how do you go about removing these things without, stressing too much? Well, there is a bit of a learning curve involved when it comes to sound restoration. There's a lot of expensive products out there which do a good job of repairing audio. But if you're like me, you just want something that's going to be easy to use. You stick it on a track, you move a fader, and it starts doing its thing. And there's no better option out there than the Waves NS1 noise suppressor. Currently, this is on sale at waves.com for $49. And if you use the link in the description below and then apply the discount code which pops up for you, you'll get a further 10% off this product or any products that you want to buy in the Waves sale. So right now, if you haven't guessed it already, I've got the Waves NS1 noise suppressor working for this video, just to give you a demonstration. Now, my normal setup is to use a Zoom H6 recorder with the MS capsule on, and I have the gain set fairly low so I don't get too much noise coming into the microphone. But for this video, I'm using the stereo mic, and I'm also cranking the gain all the way up to a maximum of 10 because I want to try and capture as much of the noise in this room I'm recording from as possible. I'm doing this from home, so things like my computer or the sound of traffic outside and whatnot will get picked up by the microphones. Now, it's doing a pretty good job of removing all this background noise, and just to give you an idea of what it's doing, I'm going to bypass it here so you can hear the difference. So straight away you can hear there's a lot of hiss, and you can probably hear other things going on in the background. But if I turn this back on, it suddenly cleans everything up and gets rid of that unwanted noise, which is great. Now, this plugin doesn't have to be just for vocals. You can use it on things like guitars or other instruments to remove like ground hum or AC hum, and it does a pretty decent job at it. Now, if you do push it too far, things start to sound a little bit underwater because it is trying its best to try and remove all that unwanted noise. But this is where the limits of this plugin will come in. If a sound source is really loud and it's buried into the recording, chances are you're not going to get it out anyway. But the more advanced software out there available, like Isotope's RX noise plugins, they're going to be doing a lot more surgical task of removing unwanted sounds and repairing audio. But this is a much simpler solution. And the best way to set it is just to not say anything at all. Listen to it and then just push the fader up until you're getting the desired amount of noise removal. Now, if you're wondering what this plugin is, this is called Waves Vocal Rider, which is another amazing product by Waves, which is also in the sale. This one's going for $29 at the moment. Again, if you use the link in the description below and follow the coupon code, you'll get an extra 10% off of that as well. And all this essentially does is automate the volume of your vocals. And if you've worked on recordings where you've mixed vocals for tracks, sometimes you might find when people speak, they say certain words louder or softer, and there's an inconsistency in the phrases and the volumes, and you have to, normally you'd have to use automation to draw in automation curves to move the volume up and down of the fader to try and make them sound more consistent without having to reach for things like compressors and that, which are not going to do as pleasing a job. And essentially what the Waves Vocal Rider does is that it listens to your vocals, you set it what target volume you want this to plug into, try and achieve for your vocals, and then it does its thing. I mean, you've got some other controls here which I'm not going to go into detail, but you can see it's automatically riding the volume of the fader to hit this target volume. So every little word I say, it's adjusting the volume accordingly to keep everything nice and consistent. And it almost sounds like you've got a bit of a compressor working, but actually you haven't. It's just literally the automation of volume, which is a fantastic hair saver as well as a time saver. So this is something I'd really recommend to get, and it works great for things like podcasts because it just makes your vocals sound a little bit more upfront and more consistent. Now, these two plugins work inside of Adobe Premiere, if you're wondering. But if you're using things like OBS to record your screencasts and use VST plugins inside of OBS, these won't work because currently they don't support WaveShell formats with DLL files, unfortunately. So this is something you're going to have to either use inside your DAW or inside of something like Adobe Premiere, which supports those formats. And this final plugin here, ignore this. This is just literally to bring the overall level up of my vocals. It's a maximizer, and this is something that comes with a Cubase. So if you found this video useful, guys, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and also the bell icon if you want to stay up to date with future videos which come out. Don't forget to use that link in the description below and apply the promo code if you want to get an extra 10% off any Waves plugins which are currently in the sale. Bear in mind, the more plugins you add to your cart, Waves also do a special discount where the more plugins you add, the more discount you get as well. So you can save big, and snap these up before they go, because the regular prices are a little bit more expensive than what they're going for now. As always, guys, thank you for watching the video, and I will see you next time.